Freedom's the answer. What's the question? You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
Yeah, crank it up here on Declare Your Independence of me, Ernest Hancock, my good friend Marc, Jay, Victor. Yeah, we try and keep each other in trouble. I think that's probably more like it. Let me go ahead and do this one thing because it applies to a lot of things that we want to talk about in this segment. This is Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments, what? Okay, let's go ahead and put this up here. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their happiness, their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. And that's kind of where we're at now. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And then it goes on about it's the patience of these colonies putting up with the yada, yada, yada. But, that right there is, where we're at.
Ernie, the yada, yada, yada is kind of fun stuff to read. Did you ever see what they're really upset about? I mean, you compare that to what we got going on today, man.
Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. Well, we got some facts.
Just think, 2% tax on tea. They set them on fire.
So this is, it's weird. I don't know. What's keeping this under the lid, man?
Look, the problem here is simple, Ernie. I hate to say it, but on your show we can just speak the truth, right? We could just lay it right out there.
No, not here!
Look, the American people are dumb, okay? And in a democracy, when you have dumb people, in a democracy the majority rules, then you have dumb people who are elected, and guess what dumb people do in terms of legislation?
Dumb things. Well, the problem is, though, is I don't blame human beings for being inherently dumb.
I did not say they were inherently dumb.
They're manufactured.
They've been dumbed down by I think very specific reasons. Things like the public schools, things like what Judge John Buttrick spoke about just as he was leaving. This sort of unquestioned, not loyalty, but just sort of accepting of anything that the government says. Remember when 9/11 happened? Man, if you didn't support the Patriot Act, if you didn't support the government marching into other countries and killing people and breaking things, you were unpatriotic. There was no room for dissent.
See, one of the cards that we're still putting these, packets together. And one of the things that we're adding is we have the revolution card. We know the truth, and the guy that's not throwing a Molotov cocktail, it's a bouquet of flowers, that logo. And that's how the Revolution was known in Europe. We ripped that off of France. So, and some guy in Great Britain did it. He saw that we were using it. He's like, hey, cool, I did that, So, on the back of that, we're talking about the blue gloves, what they're for, and so you got TSA guys not smearing stuff off of one person onto you and next, and we got this pandemic from TSA government, But so it's kind of fun. We talk about that, but the other thing that we want to make sure that we express is that there is a time that you have to make a decision about what is and is not available to the government. And you go to religious people, and they always say this. They go, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. And I have to ask the question. I always go, is there anything that's not Caesar's? Do they just pass a law and say, this to be Caesar's? I mean, am my life, my body, is it mine? Well, the H1N1 vaccine shots, they wanted to penetrate my flesh. They were all about, man, we made a big stinking deal about that here too. And we were able to kind of push that off. But they don't want to just scan us naked. They want to get inside our flesh.
They're doing that anyways, Ernie, right now on stupid little misdemeanor DUI cases. They're taking your blood without your consent. It's a routine matter. It happens every day in Arizona.
And that, but with not even accused of a crime or so. I just want to travel and I'm getting nailed. I just and the real rhetoric comes down to travel. You have to appear naked before the king, or get groped by the king's men. Throughout history, this kind of stuff has happened before, and it never ended well.
No, and it's not going to end well in this country either, if for no other reason just for the economic crisis we have coming up, thanks to the government printing money out of control and handing out benefits out of control and things like that. I mean, there's just no avoiding that. That's what stupid people voting for stupid legislators making stupid laws has got us.
Well, we had John Taylor Gatto at last year's summit, and that was kind of his point. He's like, look, man, you got a whole big giant generations of manufactured dumb people.
Yeah. And, I'll tell you something, and this is kind of heresy too, but back when W was in charge, he would constantly equate and use as if they meant the same things, freedom and democracy. Remember, democracy, freedom and democracy? Well, they're not the same things. Freedom and democracy may be mutually exclusive. I mean, right? I mean, democracy is majority rule. Freedom is self-rule. They're totally different concepts. And we suffer from an excess of democracy.
So what do you see in your day-to-day work every day? You're going up against a man. I mean, I know I've known you for like 15 years.
Well, it's like
it's weighed on you, man. It's
Ernie, when we did the Shelton trial, it was surprising for me, really, that you guys were surprised to see what was going on. That was enlightening for me because this is what I deal with every day. And when you guys came in and you saw the prosecutor and you saw the judge and you heard the cop testify, that's every day for me, and you guys couldn't believe it.
Oh, no, I tell you what we couldn't believe. This is the one thing that really got us. Senior editor Pal Gamble and I and some other activists, we were in the back of the courtroom. Now, you didn't even have to put on a defense. You just go, look, if we stipulated everything they said, there's still not a crime here, I want a Rule 20 dismissal. What was interesting was the judge tried to convince the prosecutor that didn't want to do this. The prosecutor, he was like, man, I'm willing to drop this a long time ago. But he had bosses tell him they're going to do it because they wanted a piece of Shelton. So the judge says, well, I'm willing to entertain this argument that the mere dispatching of an officer is enough probable cause to, you got to ID everybody. Oh, there's a blanket one for you right there. And we're just going, wow.
And that was just the beginning of the craziness. Remember, the officer was parked on the street, slowing traffic down, and it was Shelton's fault because Shelton didn't cough up his ID when he didn't have to cough up his ID, and that caused the officer to be there a little bit longer, and Shelton should be charged with obstruction of traffic.
And when we come back, Judge Buttrick was talking about a comment that the judges are trying to do contempt as a way to get around some of the legalization of drug law.